Welcome back to the Jenstead. I'm Mary. Today's February 1st, 2026. And in January, the Democrats were handed the keys to the Commonwealth of Virginia. We have the governor is a Democrat, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and the majority of the General Assembly. Now, if you remember, they campaigned on affordability, which some of us, apparently some people fell for it. I did not fall for it. But while they campaigned on affordability, their actions since then reflect more like a war on affordability. And they have not wasted any time. They have introduced the most insane, sweeping tax proposals as far as how they're going to address affordability. So their approach is to raise taxes to make things more affordable, which makes zero sense. What this does is it really guts out the middle class. It really hurts the lower income earners and the middle class. And I'm going to go over some of these ridiculous proposals that the General Assembly is putting forward. And here's first one: dog walking tax, dog grooming tax. And this is part of House Bill 900. And under the bill, companion animal care would be newly classified as a taxable service in Virginia. The legislation specifically lists grooming, walking, training, and boarding among taxable activities while exempting veterinary care and medical procedures, blah, blah, blah. Many have operate outside of the state's traditional sales tax structure. Supporters of the bill argue that expanding the sales tax to services is a long overdue modernization of Virginia's revenue system. They always say that. It's long overdue. They can't tax enough. They just cannot do it. So, and that is their philosophy, is to raise taxes as opposed to cutting government spending. So they don't associate productivity with revenue. Here are some more. New personal property tax on electric leaf blower and landscaping equipment. That makes sense. Gun and ammo tax, investment income tax, digital personal property tax, new car taxes and highway uses fee. We already have a car tax. When you buy a car, you pay tax on it. Then they tax you every year for the privilege of driving your own car in Virginia. Vehicle repair tax. And we've all seen the cost of having our vehicles repaired has increased. Home repair tax, dry cleaning tax, delivery tax, which will affect Uber, Amazon, FedEx, and UPS. Large employer tax. And then they've established new income tax brackets. And there was an article in Financial Advisor on January 21st. And the title is Virginia Eyes Doubling Income Taxes on Millionaires and Taxing Investment Gains. So that'll help everybody. The more taxes they steal from they can steal from the millionaires, the better it is for everyone. And it says here, by having the millionaires pay their fair share of taxes, it will actually help Virginians be able to come out of this affordability crisis and kind of buffer us a little bit from what's going on a federal level. Delegate Kelly Converse Fowler, a Democrat who represents Virginia Beach, told the press. So they don't care about affordability for the taxpayer. It's all about buffering, getting their hands on as much money as they possibly can. They've also proposed additional sales tax in all Virginia counties and cities. And what this does is this allows localities to levy an additional local sales and use tax subject to voter approval. And when they want something, they put out a lot of public pressure for it. Subject to voter approval to fund school construction and renovation projects. And I'll put all the links to these articles so you can read them in their full glory at your own leisure. And so in Virginia operates under Dillon Rule, which Dillon Rule specifically, it restricts local governments to only those powers expressly granted to them by the state legislature. So every year, your locality, if you're in Virginia, if you're in a city or a county, usually the county or city attorney and staff produce a legislative agenda that the board votes on to support. And I've talked about this before. I served on James City County Board of Supervisors for 8 years, 2007 to 2015, if I did my math right. And if you ever want punishment, serve as a conservative in the minority. But anyway, so my experience with that is my first year on the board, the very first legislative agenda that staff had put out for us to support was to oppose any legislation that made it more difficult for the county to impose eminent domain. So it was a complete attack on private property rights, and I was successful in lobbying to get rid of that. But I don't know if they put it back on or not. It's very likely. Another example is it had been for years, for whatever reason, only cities were allowed to tax cigarettes and counties weren't. So, most localities, the people that work in government, they just can't get their hands on enough money. So there was every year that was on our legislative agenda that overall the board seemed to support. I did not, but to be able to collect taxes on cigarettes. I'm like, we've got enough taxes. That was my opinion. So most localities the staffs are all very government minded, and so the more they can get their paws on tax dollars, they're going to support it, and the media seems to be all on board with them as well. So they're going to push it in the media. And also, I wanted to show you, if you are interested, you can follow the legislation that's being put forward in the General Assembly and track it. And you go to, the Legislative Information System. And it's lis.virginia.gov/home/2026-1. And I'll put a link to this below also in the comments. So if you want to track legislation, because I'm only talking about the taxation proposals. There are a whole host of other things with schools, with crime, and so on and so forth, and weakening that is moving through, that'll be pushed up to Governor Spanberger. And remember, all these people lied. They ran saying they're running for affordability, but you always have to wonder and ask yourself, when they say things like that, what do they actually mean? Because they'll say something, but what they mean is the exact opposite. And so, I've always had the philosophy, you don't grow the economy by growing the government. People that work in government just do not associate productivity with productivity and prosperity with low taxes, and it doesn't compute with them. And from my standpoint, if you lower the tax burden, people have more freedom and more resources in order to grow their businesses. And small businesses used to be and should be the backbone of the economy in the United States, not just grubbing as much money from the citizens as you can get. And then we don't even really know where our money's going anymore, do we? So anyway, if you don't live in Virginia, you should be very thankful. And so the next switch in the General Assembly would be, they have 2 years to make a mess of everything. And our previous governor, Youngkin, left them a huge pile of money and handed it over to them. And I have a feeling that that's already been spent on green projects and so forth. But again, these taxes, all they do is they hurt small business owners. I mean, if somebody has a dog walking business, a grooming business, an automotive business, it hurts the business and it hurts the consumer as well. And so we're continuing to see the middle class really struggling. And again, you're seeing there's another article about wealth inequality and the K-shaped economy are more striking than ever. And whereas basically the wealthier, for the most part, their positions are improving, and the people who are struggling, it's getting more difficult for them. So, it just really frustrates me. I don't know why anyone votes for these people and puts them in these positions that really cares about the Commonwealth and cares about the country and the Constitution. So again, always keep preparing. It'll be interesting. The metal markets open up this evening. It'll be interesting to see what's happening there because we also were closed on Friday. I think silver was at 80. Don't quote me. I won't even say because I can't remember. But it dropped significantly. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they reopen. And we've had it's been about 19 degrees here and breezy. Didn't have much snow, but it's been very cold. So I've been in and out constantly having to make sure the water's not frozen for the ducks and for the chickens, and just making sure everyone's staying as warm as they can and hydrated and fed as they can, and keeping the house. But always keep your preps in mind, extra water on hand, extra canned foods on hand. I also saw where it's a huge traffic jam. I forget what state it was in, but it was in a snowstorm. So you had all these people stranded in the snow, in their cars in the middle of nowhere. And that's why it's important if you're traveling, even just to keep in your car all the time, have a backup bag with extra water, extra blankets, hand warmers, flashlight, and so on and so forth. I actually did a video about that a couple months ago, so you can look for that if you're interested. And thank you all for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Have a great day.